Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. We are taking you through this Thursday. It is NBA playoff season. It is Major League Baseball season that we have more interest in than usual because the Royals are good. We'll get into that. We've got lots of portal news to get into, not necessarily good news as it pertains to K-State basketball today that we want to dig into a little bit. We'll have our K-State insider, Tim Fitzgerald, coming up top of the next hour. All kinds of good stuff for you to be able to do, all kinds of ways for you to get in touch with the program. We appreciate you listening on KFH. You can get in touch with us the good old-fashioned way. Chat it up with us on the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. You can also leave us your comments on our video streams, which you'll find on Facebook. You'll find that on YouTube. You'll find that on X right now. You can leave your comments there. We get them and can put them out over our video stream, which we would always invite you to watch, by the way, if you can't be in your car listening to us. That's a great way to take in the show. You can also listen to the show at the office through kfhradio.com or the Odyssey app. So we appreciate it, however it is that you take us in. We'll have some giveaway today. We'll give away some HTO iced tea and coffee, free reign coffee. So stay tuned for your opportunity to win that. We'll let you know what's coming up on the networks today. We'll get you some bets maybe out the door. Lots of good stuff today for you. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Another busy day. Looking forward to jumping right into it. I know that we've got quite a few things on tap, including the Royals, which I'm excited to talk about as they wrap up that series against the Blue Jays yesterday. A lot to get to. Glad to be here.
I actually watched a half of basketball in the NBA playoffs last night. I'm starting to get geared up a little bit. I watched a little bit of the Mavs-Clippers game, and then the Mavs started to blow them out, and I was out. It was bedtime at that point. But, we're getting there with that too. But it has been interesting as we've had the Royals now more relevant than they've been since 2016, probably. Been about 7-8 years since we've been able to do this, so we're thoroughly enjoying that. A couple of baseball guys on this show for sure. But I want to start with the portal, and we'll get more into this with Fitz later in the show, Tommy. But, I kind of starting to get a little smoke here on concern, I think, for the Wildcat basketball program. Day-Day Ames hops in the portal. Didn't see that coming at all. I'm like, well, that's not good. They were definitely counting on him this year. And then Arthur Kaluma yesterday jumps in. Now, Kaluma about a week ago had declared for the NBA draft. No big deal, right? Test the waters, come back, most likely is what you thought. But then right before the buzzer, gets his name into the portal. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if that was a protection for him in case Jerome Tang gets out there not knowing about the draft and brings somebody in. But I don't think they would with Arthur Kaluma. I think it would be with Kaluma, your spot is secure if you want it. So we'll see. But I do think it's a little bit concerning that we've seen a couple of guys who we would have right now, as of today, put into next year's starting lineup, I'm pretty sure. And RJ Jones is out too. But in Ames and Kaluma, Tommy, these were guys we were counting on to be starters next year.
Well, Kaluma, number one, had probably the best year of his career last year under Jerome Tang. He had been a really good player before, when he played for Creighton and all of that. But he really flourished under Jerome Tang last season, averaging over 14 points a game, 7 boards, 2 assists. He shot the ball well from 3-point range, and he became kind of, the key, one of the key options. I think that everybody sort of expected, at least from the transfer perspective last year, that Tyler Perry would be the key guy, and he was at times. But when Tyler Perry struggled, it was Arthur Kaluma, and he really solidified himself as one of the key pieces of that Wildcats team, and probably, I would think, a key member that Jerome Tang would have wanted to build with next year and continue to have in that starting lineup. And so I think that's where that surprise comes from, right? It's not just, I think everybody kind of expected, okay, he's going to test the NBA draft. And that's kind of a given when you're at his skill set to at least get feedback in that way. But I'm not sure many people were expecting that not only would he declare for the draft, but he would also then enter the portal. So, he could always decide to come back to K-State,
right.
But I think it would be different if there were new transfer portal players coming into Kansas State that threaten the position or the playing time from Kaluma, and I don't really think that there is at this point. So that's what makes this kind of surprising.
I try not to be surprised by portal stuff, but this one really did surprise me. And so did Day Ames, by the way. Yeah, he could come back. It's not even crazy to imagine that he comes back, even though he's entered the portal. And to be quite honest, I don't have an issue with the player seeing what's out there. Maybe there's another team out there willing to offer him twice as much in NIL opportunities as K-State. And, again, I try to put myself in in the position of these kids and these kids' parents. It'd be like, it'd be hard to turn down, right? He's not a surefire NBA guy. I would say at this point, that's kind of a long shot, right? So you got to be able to earn while your basketball career is, but it still surprised me because I just didn't see it. It's not like K-State's a program where we're going to see waves and waves of players exit. I don't think. I think that they're going to be just fine in the NIL space. I think that everybody loves Jerome Tang, including his players. So it's just curious. If Day Ames had not happened, I don't even know how much this one would concern me. The fact that they both happened does. We do get some good news in that David Gasson's coming back. He made a big announcement. I didn't know that was a question. I thought everyone just sort of knew that. And maybe they did. Maybe it was, a Hunter Dickinson light situation. But he's back, so that's good. But they have now some holes to fill, and they're going to need to do some work. And I don't know how, if you're Jerome Tang and the staff, you don't operate with the feeling that, hey, Kaluma's probably going to be gone. Right?
Yeah.
Like, how else? You have to. So now you have to go attack the portal in that way.
And I wonder, by the way, I wonder about the motivations of both of these players. And it could very easily be different for both of them. And that's kind of what my thought is on this, is that maybe with Kaluma, and I'm just guessing, speculating here, I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but I wonder if for Kaluma, it's, hey, I'm going to get NBA feedback. But maybe I feel like with one more year in college on a larger stage, with maybe a more high profile program. I'm not saying Kansas State is not high profile at all, but maybe he feels like there's a better opportunity for him to be drafted higher after next season if he goes to another team to play for in his final year of college. That might be one motivation for Arthur Kaluma. Day Ames, in my mind, again, I don't know, I have no inside info on this, wouldn't shock me if this is just a pure NIL play. Day Ames kind of burst onto the scene last year and became a guy that in his minutes as he grew throughout the season that started getting more attention. And I know we were talking about as this season went on and how, he had that potential and everybody loved his game and that sort of thing. Wouldn't shock me if there was another program that said, saw the same things in him, thinks that he can take a major step forward, and they were able to pay him, or will be able to pay him pretty substantially in NIL. Again, I don't know, but I think there could be different motivations for both of these guys.
Yeah, look, Day Ames is probably going to be able to get more minutes right away somewhere else. But you'd have to imagine if that were going to be the case, he would have to go smaller profile, right, than K-State. And in Kaluma, 14 points a game. I think, Kaluma was so important to what the Cats did last year. It's not like Kansas State can't, get better at the position through there's still a lot of good portal players out there. A lot. Like a lot of, I look at, typically I go to 24/7 on this stuff, and 5, I believe, or 4 of their top 10 portal ranked players that do not have landing spots yet. So there's still plenty out there, and maybe that has something to do with it too. I don't know. That's why we want to get, inside the head of Tim Fitzgerald on this. Maybe he's heard something. There are a lot of players out there that don't have homes yet. Players that would, Kansas, we love what Kansas has done in the portal, right? Zeke Mayo is, I believe, their highest ranked, and AJ Storr, right? So there you go. But there's still 4 players essentially with the same ranking or rating by the services that AJ Storr has that I'm seeing. There is a big, the Rutgers big, who still hasn't quite decided. So there's a ton still out there. And that's the other part of this. How much of this might be K-State, right? How much does K-State think they may be able to upgrade at the position? We see, Kansas right down the road doing that. They're upgrading at these positions through the portal. And what does it mean? I for the returners, I don't know, but I just didn't see it coming at all. And I didn't see it coming with Day Ames. And that's what's a little bit strange to me about this. Was this more Kansas State or was this more Arthur Kaluma? We'll try to ask Tim Fitzgerald that question in just a little bit. But the portal is the portal, man, and it's going to portal. But at least now we know who all's in there. Right now, we're to that phase of this. We'll get everybody else settled out. And then we will have the deadline of coming out of the portal, right? So it's a long process. I think that, it could get tidied up just a little bit, but I guess I would just want to know what players are going into the portal maybe a little bit sooner if they move that deadline up. But I get why you don't, right? Because kids have draft decisions to make. And the other part of it is you have to allow kids to have those conversations, see what's out there, and allow teams to evaluate the roster. So maybe there is no solution. Maybe this is just the world we live in. I don't know. But I didn't see it coming at all. And most of the time on these, we can kind of see it coming, right? Like we had a pretty good idea that Colby Rogers might jump out for Wichita State. That didn't really surprise us. It surprised us when Elmarco Jackson and Jamari McDowell stayed out of the portal, right? It surprised me that Ames and Kaluma jumped in.
Yeah, and I wonder too, what's the plan from Jerome Tang's perspective as far as replacing production? Because if you don't have Kaluma, obviously Tyler Perry has graduated. Day Ames, who was a key contributor off the bench and then, sometimes starter for the team, and I think was poised to take a big step forward this coming season. Looks like he's out. Cam Carter, who was also a key contributor, especially offensively, and probably their best shooter more often than not on the team. He's out too. He's in the transfer portal. So where are you going to get that production next year? I think that's going to be a major question. It's great, by the way, that David Gasson is returning, and that's awesome. But David Gasson is not a major offensive threat. It never really has been over the course of his career. So that's going to be a major question, is where is the offensive production going to be coming from?
So I'm looking at gopowercat.com. Fitz just put something out, which is perfect timing. He can talk to us about this. Well, I said he put this out after Kaluma decided to go pro. So maybe this was maybe they saw this coming when he declared for the draft. I just have to get to the bottom of how surprising this is, and if we think this is more of a Kaluma or a K-State decision. There is a world where K-State feels like they can get better, and that's no knock on Kaluma because I think he was fantastic last year for them. But if they want to, redesign this roster and just field a ton of really high-profile players, go get them. And we'll all just then we'll take a different approach. But right now, it feels like that was an important player that they were going to have next year. At least it did to me. But we'll get to the bottom of it. It's come up the top the next hour. What do you think, Cat fans? 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. Jad is manning that for us. Lot to get through still in the. And then look. And then here's the other part that's really not fair, Tommy, to try and follow is now we've got football players back on the move. I'm just like, I can't, again, I don't have any problem with this, but it is really difficult to keep up with all of it. Like now we've got football players moving with basketball players. I thought we were ready to just sort of focus in on the basketball portion of this, but no, we all the things happening at Colorado with Coach Prime, and he's getting feisty with fans who are talking trash, and this is the world we live in, folks, and until maybe the revenue sharing thing we talked about yesterday will solve this, and maybe they can't move around like this, but it is what it is. And it's just, again, I don't have any problem with any of it. It's really hard to keep up with. We do our best here. That was the headline. Portal news of yesterday was that Arthur Kaluma is now in the portal. Leave us your comments on our video stream, which you find on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. You can go back and listen to this again at KFHradio.com. Tim Fitzgerald joins us top of the hour to go more into that. We're going to go Royals when we come back. Win the series. Here we go. Now a day off, and take advantage because they don't get many of these for the next little while. They come back home. We'll talk about the game yesterday when we return on Sports Daily. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be with you on this Thursday. Thursday's always fun. Kansas City Royals baseball makes it fun when they get another big win over the Blue Jays, 6-1. When they get another great starting pitching performance. Seth Lugo this time, 7 innings, just a run allowed, 8 strikeouts. It's always good when Bobby Witt Jr. goes 2 for 4. When Vinny Pasquantino goes 2 for 3. And Salvador Perez chimes in with yet another RBI. That was a Royals baseball type win this year. And then they get 2 shutout innings by the bullpen, who continues to just sort of settle into things a little bit. Tommy, 6-1 winners over the Blue Jays. Take another series. The Blue Jays are slipping just a little bit, but it's still on the road. You're going to, when you look at this team, and we still try to evaluate expectations. And I know I sort of go a lot of different directions on this, but man, you've got Lugo and Reagans. If those guys are as good, and I think that they are, as they've been most of this season, and you've got a top 2, look across baseball. How many top 2s in a rotation would you take over those 2 guys right now? Because I don't think it's many. And that's intriguing. They just continue. I mean, we've had 1 bad start from Reagans, and I think 1 somewhat bad start from Lugo, and we're like 7 or 8 times through the rotation here now.
Yeah, I mean, the top of that rotation, I would put it up against any other rotation in baseball. Honestly, I mean, the top 2, I really, truly would, just based on the early returns this season. And, Seth Lugo, I thought pitched outstanding yesterday. And really held the Blue Jays down, I thought, when, the Blue Jays had an opportunity. I think the Royals bats weren't really lighting up early in the game. It was actually, later in the game that they came alive. And I thought the Blue Jays had a chance to, be able to take the lead against Lugo, but Lugo was able to shut them down. And, when they brought in Seth Lugo during the offseason, I thought, okay, this is a good piece for the rotation, somebody that you could maybe count on as a middle rotation kind of guy, maybe your 3rd starter at worst, maybe your 4th starter. That was kind of the way that I thought Lugo would perform in Kansas City. And he has absolutely outshined those expectations that I had for him to start the season. Same thing with Cole Reagans. Obviously, we knew about him last year, and he's really been able to follow it up. I don't think he's been quite as dominant as we saw during that stretch of excellence a year ago, but he's still been really good and fairly consistent. Yeah, really 1 bad outing. But other than that, the last time out, last week against the Blue Jays, and then the other day in Toronto against the Blue Jays, pitched masterfully. And for both of those guys, I think the biggest thing, and really any time a starter can do this, and this is something Reagans and Lugo are able to do, the more innings you can eat up to rest your bullpen, the better you are going to be. And so that's something we saw from both Cole Reagans on Tuesday, and it's what we saw from Seth Lugo yesterday. Now they get another day off. And so by the time you kick off this weekend series, you should have a really well-rested bullpen.
So Seth Lugo was a phenomenal addition and a phenomenal job of scouting. If Seth Lugo had done what he did last year with the Padres 1 more year, he would have been out of the Royals' price range most likely. So Seth Lugo was a bullpen guy. I mean, he was a bullpen guy
Right.
up until last year, right? Every year. He when he started his career, he was pretty dang good. And he'd have that whip, which whip for non-analytic, it's walks and hits per inning pitched, right? How much traffic do you have out there? He's been at about 1.1 over his career. That's pretty good. And so he had been that, and what he's done now is basically put up the exact same numbers last year as a starter that he had done over the majority of his career as a reliever, except now he does it through 26 starts. There was one other year with the Mets, as I look back at this, where they tried him as a starter, didn't go very well. So he goes back to the bullpen with the Mets, and then has another 5 pretty darn good years out of the bullpen. Then he goes to San Diego last year. They make him a starter. Tommy goes 150 innings, 3.5 ERA. Now he's only pitched 150 innings, so I don't know what his innings limit, if he has one. He's 34. You don't typically hear about that. But last year's 146 was by far the most he had ever pitched. So we'll see about that. as he makes his way through this season, already at 45, almost, he's averaging more than 6 innings a start. He's going to push 200 innings if he stays healthy. Can he do that? We don't know that yet. That's a little bit of a question to look at later in the season. But the reality is, had he done again, like had he done for more than 1 year over his career, he would have been too expensive. So a really, really nice job of the Royals front office of identifying him as a guy to take a chance on. They're going to have to keep doing that, right? Especially now they've got their money committed to some younger players. They've got all that taken care of. So just a phenomenal job to go get him by this front office. I don't, it wasn't an easy decision. It looks easy because he's looked so good. And we're like, man, they got him for cheap. That's awesome. The reality is they took a risk on him because he had never really been a starter outside of one season. So nice job by them. And Waka presents a different set of risks, right? His injury history is his risk. He's been a good starter. We know
when he's been healthy. Yeah, he's been really good.
But they took that risk based on his health. Again, appropriate risk. I'm good with it. But now as you watch Lugo and Reagans go, it is. And I think it's fine to be excited and think about, well, gosh, what if you could get those two in a short series? Like, that'd be awesome, right? That'd be great. It's fun. They win another series on the road. They're led by their big pieces on offense for the most part. It's so funny. You get Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr. playing out of their mind right now. I mean, it is incredible, and I love it so much. And everybody else in the lineup's just kind of, picking their spots.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about how great Michael Massey has been since he's been able to come back up with the team? I mean, he drove in 4 runs yesterday, and he hit his first home run of the season during this series with Toronto, and so he was a piece that was missing at the beginning of the season. He's been able to come back, right? But he's been clutch when the Royals have needed him in the wins, and so that his overall average is not reflective, I don't think, of the value that he's brought to the Royals since he came off of the injured list. Vinny Pasquantino had a terrible start to the season, and he's really started to kind of come around, turn things around a little bit. And he had a rough patch here recently, but he had a good game yesterday too against Toronto. So I do get what you're saying.
He's still climbing out of the early season hole.
As far as picking their spots and things like that. But that's really, I mean, I don't think that you would look at a team and point out, just a couple of players. I don't care how good those players are, and say, well, it's because of those 2 players only. They only have to be good and we'll be a playoff team. You got to have more than that. It doesn't matter how great Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez are in that regard. Look at the Angels and Mike Trout. Obviously, Trout's injured now, but he's been really, really good, and the Angels don't win games. So you've got to have, it's a full team effort. You got to have both the hitting and the pitching, obviously. But it's been nice to see those other players outside of Witt and Salvi find those opportunities to be productive for the Royals.
So Pasquantino, before the last 2 games, had gone 7 hitless games.
Right.
And before that, he didn't have more than 1 hit in any game since April 15th. So we're looking at this. And before yesterday, Tommy, Vinny Pasquantino has not had a game where he had more than 1 hit since April 17th. They need him to step it up because he has to then now become a contributor there. Right. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, 2 of the best baseball players we have ever seen play baseball, weren't enough for the Angels offensively. So Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez are not going to be enough offensively, but they might be if Pasquantino, finds his consistency. They might be if Garcia still provides, the lightning pop at the top. And then if everyone else contributes when the time comes to contribute. Timing is everything. If they can get just clutch out of those guys, it will get them far enough. They will need another bat. We talked about this yesterday. It is quickly, to me, becoming the greatest need, if the bullpen continues this, will be another veteran bat to be able to mix in there.
Not only just a veteran bat, but a veteran bat that can play outfield. Because, I mean, the outfield is really where they're not hardly getting any production, and they've tried a bunch of different guys between Kyle Isbell. I mean, he's done a little bit. He's probably been
Isbell's defense is making him worth playing.
And as far as offensively, I mean, he's probably given the Royals the most, I would think, out of their outfielders. Hunter Renfroe's not really giving them anything.
No.
Adam Frazier, Garrett Hampson, those guys are light hitters for the most part. And MJ Melendez, I always want to see more from him as well. So, I do think that, yeah, if you're looking at needs right now, it's probably got to be an additional bat in the outfield.
It is. And I don't know if any of these guys okay, so Vinny Pasquantino, we think will figure it out, right? I think he'll be fine. Michael Garcia, I'm still in on. And outside of that, and I'll take Isbell's defense, batting in the 9 hole. It's fine because he's become such a great defender. I'll take that for my pitching staff. Sort of everyone else is kind of their job's on the line to me. Everybody else, right? And that's okay. And the thing is, right now, they're for the most part they're getting the clutch spots, just like Massey hit the home run yesterday. They're finding themselves at least being clutch, but they're going to need a little more. And I think they're going to do it, Tommy. I think when you can, even with all the good teams in the American League and how difficult it's going to be to navigate it, I don't think the front office can afford not to be aggressive. If we get to if we get a month down the road and it's June 1st and the Royals are in this same, stratosphere, a handful of games above 500 or better, I think that will be the time to get aggressive. You can't go out and have shrewd moves like signing Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha and not try to capitalize on the fact that those have been home run signings so far. You have to then push your chips all in. You have to. And it's not like they have a ton on the farm right now that is going to just cost them. Like they don't really have anything down there anyway. There really aren't reinforcements coming. So go be aggressive at the deadline. I mean, rebuilding the farm system is going to take years. So utilize what you do have and go see what you can get. It will be different for them, though. They don't have the veterans that they'll just try to be trading away. They're going to have to find something they can do. And that's the thing, too. I don't expect any splash trades for the Royals this year. I don't think they have the pieces to make a splash trade. So it will be, again, identifying guys, expiring contracts. Are you willing to spend the money on an expiring contract? Like those kinds of things are how they're going to have to make these deals happen. And they need to. And it now is the time. You've waited. The fan base deserves it.
We're over a month through the season, and I do think that it's telling. And this is a little bit different than at least what my thought process about the division was going to be before the season started. The AL Central is the most competitive division in
Looks
baseball.
good.
It's the best division in baseball through the first month of the season. There are 4 out of the 5 teams that are over 500 in the AL Central. No other division in Major League Baseball has 4 of their teams over 500 through the first month. There are a couple that have 3, but the AL Central is the only one that has 4 as of right now. And so the Royals are staying competitive in the most competitive division in baseball. You can go back through the month of April, and it's been discussed before about the schedule that the Royals played and the number of times they played the White Sox and blah, blah, blah. But regardless, it is the most difficult division as of right now in Major League Baseball, and the Royals are competitive in all of it. And I think that you mentioned Salvi a few minutes ago. As great as Bobby Witt Jr. has been, and he is a superstar, in my mind, the MVP in the first month of the season is Salvador Perez. There's no question about it. He's out to the best start in his career, and he's almost 34. And here's what I think is so crazy about what Salvi has done so far this season. And I'm optimistic that it will continue as the season progresses. Last year, it was a fine season for Salvi last year, but last year he struck out 23% of the time and walked 3% of the time. His strikeout percentage was way too high, and he didn't walk enough. So far this year, through 1 month, 10% strikeout rate and 8% walk rate. So those numbers have come back in the right direction. And that's difficult to do if you're 24, much less 34. And the fact that he's been able to get more patient at the plate as this season has started, I think that's going to bode well for the way he plays for the rest of the year.
I'm trying to pull it up right now to project out what he would do this year. Let me see if I can do that, because we're looking at a situation where he's on track to be the best he's ever been. And so what are we at? We're at 31 games. So, you can multiply things times 5 probably because he'll take time off. That would be about 35 home runs. It would be close to 140, 150 RBI. He's batting 355. I mean, this would be the great offensive season. Now, that's an unfair expectation, but just to sort of put into perspective the pace that he's on, it would be an MVP pace. And it's not taking anything away from Bobby Witt Jr. because if Bobby Witt Jr., Tommy, hits 320, he's probably going to win the MVP. By the time it's all said and done, if Bobby Witt Jr. hits 320, good luck everybody else. Because at that point, you're going to be talking about, I mean, goodness gracious, you're going to be talking about a 320 hitter. His power hasn't quite been, but he'd be at 20, 25 home runs, be around 100 RBIs. He's going to have like 50 stolen bases at that point if he's batting 320. So, again, good. And his power is coming. He hadn't even really started hitting with power yet this year, but his average is significantly higher than it has been. And that has been sort of for Bobby Witt Jr., right? That's the next evolution of his game is his batting average. And it's happening this year, which is not a surprise at his age. This is kind of the year it should be happening. And it's just remarkable to think about those two players and the fact that they're locked up for a long time and the fact that, Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer and Bobby Witt Jr., you could project out to be that and take advantage of this. That's what I mean about being aggressive at the deadline. How many more elite Perez Witt Jr. years do you have? 3 in a best case scenario, I think is a fair look at it, a 3-year window to really utilize Salvi. Now, Salvi may take the path and just become this, we've used the example of Nelson Cruz and Vladimir Guerrero and these guys that are just great hitters that can sort of DH their way through back end of a career, David Ortiz. I don't know that, Salvador Perez is the same kind of power hitter as David Ortiz, but he's pretty close, and he hits for a ton of average right now, and I'm just so excited for one of my favorite baseball players of all time. And you hope he stays healthy. He battles through injury. He does all of these things. Don't waste these years of Salvador Perez. I told you before this season started, I thought he was going to have some of his best power years over the next couple. I think that's what we're seeing, and I think we will begin to see a slow shift from him catching all the games that he's caught because his bat has become so valuable. What was, the light bulb moment for me with him, Tommy, was that home run derby. What was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, probably? That was where I was like, holy crap. Like this, like he is toe for toe with any of these dudes right now. And that was, remember the famous home run derby where they were kind of glossing over him to drool all over Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
And it was like, guys, Salvador Perez is about to like set records here. Like, what are we looking at? Or are we all watching the same thing? That was sort of that light bulb moment where I'm like, man, he might become like one of the game's better power hitters pretty soon as he really focuses in on doing that. And he's only 34. It feels like he's 40. Feels like he's been around forever. Dude's only 34.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It wasn't that long ago. What was it, the 2021 season that he hit 48 home runs, right?
Yes.
And, and that was, and as great as Salvi has been throughout the course of his career, and I know that he's been able to hit for power throughout the course of his entire career in Kansas City. I never, like, if you had to ask me, I don't know, 10 years ago, who I thought would have the Royals record for single season home runs, I'm not sure I would have picked Salvi. And I think that Salvi, I would have been like, oh, he'd be in the conversation, maybe in the top 5. But I don't know if I would have put him on top at that time, tying Jorge Soler for the Royals single season record at 48. And he did, and that was just a couple of years ago. And so, that has continued. Now, are we going to see him hit 48 home runs again? Probably not.
Probably not.
But I think we're going to see him hit 30 or more, throughout the course of the
which he's never done other
career.
than that season, by the way. So we need to be fair. Like he's never, other than that season, he's never hit 30 in a year, but he hadn't played enough games. He's had injuries to deal with. He misses games. He misses games, but not like seasons. He's had the 1 year where it was just a devastating season by injury. 2, I suppose. He had the 2 years in 2019 and 2020. It kind of happened together that way. And then he's been pretty good since. He missed 50 games in 2022. That's always a concern, which is why I think most of us would like to see him catch a little less, because it's not because you don't value him as a catcher, you do, but because it potentially takes his bat out of the lineup, which you can't do. And that 48 home run season, Tommy, I am not, you know this, most people do, I think. I'm not that active on social media, not nearly as much as I probably should be. That was a time where I was ready to get in a fight. Like that year, there was something, because he finished like it's stupid in the MVP voting. I'm like, he's a top 3 MVP guy. I wasn't saying he was going to win it, but I was like, he should be a top 3 MVP. And I mean, people came after me. Those nerds came after me with their pitchforks, telling me how he's not that valuable. And I'm like, you guys just don't watch baseball. How about you watch baseball and get from behind your computer screen and actually watch baseball and try to tell me that? It's ridiculous. He's getting his due now. I think the rest of the world is starting to really appreciate how good he is. Royals fans have known it forever, but he's on pace right now to have a season like he had in that really special year offensively for him, where he had 121 RBIs. He's on pace to be better than that. He's on pace to be much better, batting average, much better on base percentage. He probably won't hit as many home runs as he did that year, but absolutely in the conversation for the MVP through this point of the season. His main competition may be his teammate out there at shortstop and Bobby Witt Jr., because he's going to I'm telling you, if he hits 320, Tommy, his numbers are going to be staggering if Bobby Witt Jr. keeps hitting at 320. I mean, I don't see that as his like long-term future. If he gets up around like 280, 290, I'll be happy. If he's hitting 320, good luck everybody else.
Yeah, I wonder how much of, what we've seen from Salvi this year is directly due to the presence of Bobby Witt Jr. in the lineup. Because I'm guessing that Salvi's going to get, some better pitches, knowing that Bobby Witt Jr. is in front of him, in the lineup. And so he's a little bit protected, where, there've been several years recently where it's been Salvi and nothing. And so there's really not been a whole lot of protection around him. So pitchers don't have to pitch to him. And the fact that he's still been able to produce at the level that he has, while being the shining star of that lineup for a number of years, now that you've got at least a little bit of protection around him, and Bobby Witt Jr. certainly going to help his stats.
Yep, no question about it. It's been fun. Royals back in action Friday. We'll take a quick break. More Sports Daily coming for you right after this.
KFH.
Don't miss a minute of the action on the diamond with ESPN Bet. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities, including a daily odds boost and home run specials all season long. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. It talks about the odd boost there, Tommy. And yesterday's hit, they had like a Nerfy. A Nerfy is a no-run first inning bet. So you're basically betting that no runs are scored in the first inning. They put 3 of those together and put it at like plus 650. And I threw like $5 at it. It hit last night. So that was a good one. I've been hot. I've been on a heater with baseball. The Royals are paying, Tommy. I'll say that. They keep getting plus money, especially when they're on the road. Keep taking it. They keep paying. They've been really good to me. I had one yesterday. We did, the two, remember, what was that? Tuesday when you were here, we did the Reagans and Barrios.
Yeah.
Each go 6 innings. That one cashed. Yesterday, I put Lugo to go 6 with a Bobby Witt Jr. hit. Kind of got the same sort of, just get it to plus money. Hit again. So today I'm looking at it. I don't like the Nerfy odd boost that's on there because 2 of the games feature pitching that isn't very good. I do kind of like Rockies, Mets, Nationals to each hit a home run, although I think it's dangerous because Nate Eovaldi's on the mound for the Rangers. So here's the one that they have out there that I like on their Major League Baseball odds boosts. Adley Rutschman, Pete Alonso, Matt Chapman, Adolis Garcia, each to have a hit at plus 325 is where you can get that one. And then as far as just another bet I like, look, I'm going to take the Guardians with Logan Allen on the mound on the road at plus money against the Astros tonight with another no-name pitcher out there. So give me the Guardians in an outright win at plus 110 tonight. That's where I'm looking at ESPN Bet that we like. You can check that out today. All right, coming up, hour number 2, we got Tim Fitzgerald coming. We got a giveaway. We'll give away some HTOT and coffee. Lots to come for you here in the second hour. So stick with us on Sports Daily. We'll come right back.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
He's got all the insight of what you want to know and maybe some of what you don't want to know. Here's K-State insider Tim Fitzgerald.
All right, and here we go. Welcome in, Fitz. GoPowerCat.com, publisher, as we feverishly try to follow the transfer portal. Fitz, I am curious for your take. We talked about this off the top of the show. We've now seen Day-Day Ames and Arthur Kaluma enter the portal. How concerned should Cat fans be right now? Whose choice is this? Is this Tang and staff's choice because they want to bring in somebody else, or is this player's choice and those really were starters to be counted on next year like we thought?
Well, keep in mind, Kaluma had declared for the draft. He hadn't put his name into the portal yet as a backup plan. So after last night, I think it closed at midnight, his only choice would have been to come back to K-State. So this is basically him opening up his options. I still think he intends to play professional basketball, but maybe someone will offer him a level of money that the leagues he could play in won't offer. So we'll see how that plays out. I think they've already counted on him not coming back, so him actually returning would be a bonus. And as for Day-Day, this was Day-Day's doing, and or at least his handlers. I've gotten really mixed information on this about Day-Day's real feelings on this, but it seems like he's been convinced that he can find a better place with more playing time and maybe more money somewhere else. And I got to be honest, guys, I'm not sure. I'm not. Day-Day's a fine player, but if he wants to play at this level, he's going to have to compete with other good players. And I see guys getting freaked out because they're recruiting all these guards. Well, if you break down a college basketball roster at 13 scholarships, you kind of need 8 guys to fill those 3 guard positions, those wings, and maybe 5 guys to fill the other 2 big man spots. And you're going to have a lot of guards on a roster. And K-State needs a lot of players. I think he just got overwhelmed, and his people got overwhelmed that they're bringing in all these players. But did they expect him to not have competition with the 8 players on the roster? I'm very confused by this one, but I wish him luck. He's a great kid. He's going to be a great player. But these players don't want time to develop anymore. They want to come on in and play immediately. And I think high school recruiting is going to be dead pretty soon because of this.
It's interesting with Day-Day, Fitz, because I remember during the season, there were multiple different times where the Wildcats were searching for offense, and it came at the hands of Day-Day Ames, and he was able to sort of kind of burst onto the scene. And I know you were high on him during the season, as was I. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like he's a player that was projected to, maybe be in the starting lineup next year and to be a key contributor for this Wildcats team. So I know that, there were other guards that were being recruited and brought in and things like that, but it seems to me that maybe he was going to be the incumbent, or at least one of them, to get a lot more playing time next year. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, you're not. Now keep in mind, he views himself as a point guard, which he is. And they brought in Doug McDaniel to do a lot of that, kind of take Tyler Perry's spot, but actually as a point guard. And they have David Castillo behind him as a true freshman who might actually have the skill set to come in and play immediately for K-State. Not in great minutes, but, certainly replace what Day-Day's leaving behind. So maybe he felt a pinch there, and let alone the fact that they still got a number of guards they need to fill the roster with. So I don't know. This is the downside to the portal. It's kind of like, jumping off the cliff, not knowing how deep the water is. You just don't know if you're going to have a good landing or if you're going to end up playing at a much lower level than you thought you should be playing at, because, the transfer portal will deliver reality. You're on the market. You're now a commodity. You're going to be judged as that, and it could be interesting for Day-Day, but I hope he finds a good spot.
I get that concern, Fitz, and I agree with you. It changes, if nothing else, high school recruiting. But I think in the long term, we'll probably see more programs get a swing at some elite level high school players, even if it's just,
Yep.
Even if it's just for a little bit, right? Maybe those schools turn
Yeah.
into a junior college of sorts, but they get a couple of years out of some really good players,
Yeah.
which, that opens the door to recruits that they don't have. But here's my question. If it's difficult, and I agree with you, I think it is, how then impressive to you is it for your rivals down the road? And Bill Self, he keeps his freshmen for the most part. Jamari McDowell coming back. Elmarco Jackson coming back. Those guys have been pushed further down the roster than they were a year ago, and they're both coming back. And it's not just like a one-off thing. Bill Self has done this for eternity. He is convinced players to stick around, and it works for them, right? By the time they're seniors, they're usually in the Naismith candidate when this happens, but he's done it again with those two. So how is he doing it when others can't?
Well, being an established program is a big part of that, and being an established coach who has a track record, big part of it. He's Bill damn Self. He's the real deal. And I think also KU has a luxury of being really honest with the highest level kids that, hey, you're going to come in. If you're good enough, you're going to play, but there's a good chance you're going to, not play a whole lot because you got a lot to learn. When you're building a program, you're trying to get your foundation under you. And unfortunately, the loss of R.J. Jones and Day Ames erodes that foundation for Jerome Tang because, his goal is to recruit some young guys and turn them into old guys, but they don't want to stick around to get that experience. And I get that. No, everyone wants to play, but I think another element of this is AAU basketball has created really false expectations for a lot of players that, they ruled the roost in the AAU circuit. Surely they can just move into college and do it. And some kids can. Some kids are ready as a freshman to play. But most of them aren't. And I think your observation is right. Unless the system is adjusted, we're going to see some 4-stars falling to mid-major programs because only the very elite players are going to get a shot at, playing at high levels right away. And they will become developmental teams, but it'll benefit them in the process.
When it comes to Arthur Kaluma, Fitz, you talked a little bit about what maybe his motivations are. And of course, he's going to be getting NBA feedback and things like that. Do you think that his game is at a level where if he returns to college, not only, can he get paid from an NIL perspective, but he could find a program better than Kansas State to continue to develop his skills if he ultimately wants to play in the NBA? Or is he not even really in that realm to get to that next level at that level?
I don't think he truly has an NBA option.
Yeah.
I mean, I think right now in his developmental process, he's a D-League player to develop, or he's going to go to Europe, which is a real possibility. You can make good money, but I'm not sure you can make the same money you can make an NIL at a program. Now, here's the problem. You don't necessarily want to be on the back end of the portal process because everyone has a salary cap of their own choosing or their own, whatever they could actually have in their NIL fund. So if teams have been recruiting, they've been spending that money and, their coffers might be a little light by the time you're on the market. And I imagine K-State will have a spot set aside for him. But, if you look at it from his perspective, it's a really smart move. Maybe there'll be a major program that has NIL money and a desperate need and is going to throw way too much money at him than K-State would spend or, most Big 12 schools to get a player that is somewhat proven. But I think K-State was preparing to move on without him, but would welcome him back. So they're kind of set for either option.
Tim Fitzgerald, publisher, gopowercat.com, at Life of Fitz on social. This is interesting for me. It's almost like a, hey, look at this hand while over here another is doing something when we're trying to follow the transfer portal. I'm trying to follow the basketball portal. I'm not ready for transfers to happen in football at the same time. My brain can't handle it. Other than Dylan Edwards, have we missed anything with football in or out with the Cats? Has anybody come in, anybody come out that we need to be paying attention to?
They did pick up a couple players yesterday. Alec Marinko, middle linebacker from New Mexico, picked K-State over Arizona. When healthy, he's exceptionally good. Fits K-State very well, but has been pretty banged up the last season and a half. So number one goal is get him healthy. Obviously, K-State thought he could be healthy. He wasn't going to be rehabbing into the start of the season. So that's a nice pickup. They're still looking for another linebacker because they feel like they got thinned out with some injuries there. So that's one thing. And then Malcolm Alcorn Crowder, who was in the recruiting class out of Butler. I keep saying Gordon, but it's Butler. And he didn't pass his final class. And so he was kind of stuck there, went into the portal, and which confused me because he needed to pass his class to get out of the portal, I would think. I mean, I think he needs to be a JUCO. He's one of those players who needs to be a JUCO graduate to be eligible. And he passed his class, and K-State was needing to replace him, so he replaced himself. He came back to K-State. He's a massive, massive guy and was considered one of the, top 4 or 5 JUCO recruits of the year. So I think that solved their depth at nose tackle, and that's good. Still got plenty of work to do. Like I said, they want another linebacker. They would love another offensive line piece, a rotational piece, and then they kind of want a backup quarterback and, someone with some experience. Avery Johnson has the most experience in that room, and they had worked briefly on Timmy McClain, who was at South Florida and then Central Florida and is back in the portal and actually played for UCF when K-State played them in Manhattan. He's got a wild upside, but he's also got some real elements that don't work for him. But he would have given them a real athlete to come in and a guy who's seen a lot of football. But at the end of the day, I think they realized Avery is going to play a lot. And K-State's sales pitch that quarterbacks don't stay healthy here, and that's why we need a backup, didn't work. It looks like he's going to go to Arkansas State.
Well, it's definitely kind of the prodigal son story with Dylan Edwards committing to Kansas State last weekend. And, don't get me wrong. I love Dylan Edwards, followed him for a long time. Incredible player, special player, all of that. What I'm curious, though, about Fitz is I love DJ Giddens. I've always loved DJ Giddens and what he brings to the backfield for Kansas State. And I thought that he really took a big step forward last year for the Wildcats. How do you think it's going to work having both of those guys in the backfield? Are there ways that Chris Kleiman can utilize both of them and be able to have a substantial upside for both? Or is this really going to be Dylan Edwards' backfield and DJ Giddens backing him up?
No. I think everyone knows that DJ's a starter, including Dylan. That was made very clear. He's put in his time. He's earned it. He sets a tone for the offense that you need. And a tone particularly, with the power run game, when you got a quarterback like Avery, I think becomes even more important. Dylan's a great complementary piece. And this is there's about as big a pickup from the portal as K-State's had, and here's why. They went looking for a backup running back. They just needed someone to relieve DJ that has some experience, and it's proven a little bit. And they ended up finding a multifaceted, highly talented, incredibly fast player. And so he can take those 10, 15 backup snaps at running back, but you can also put him in the slot. You can put him, you might see now 2-back sets with DJ and him and Avery out there. And I don't know what a defense does with that. Particularly if you're creative and, read options and those type of things, you could just run the option, in fact. And also gives them a kick and punt returner. So Dylan Edwards is not going to be starved for touches.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Fitz, is just in general terms, Connor Riley, Matt Wells, the new regime, running the offense. How is that looking to you? Do you think, I think the players are naturally going to make it look a little bit different than what we've seen. Not that I think any coach would do that, but what are the early returns or signs or indications you're getting on the offense and the evolution now without without Colin Klein there?
Yeah. And his offense and the foundation, it's interesting watching this evolve from when Chris Kleiman arrived from North Dakota State. Courtney Messingham was running the NDSU offense for the most part, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. And then he just kind of lost distraction as a play caller, and Colin comes in and adds his own things in. And so we saw this, mashup of North Dakota State and Colin Klein philosophies, which brought in some Snyder stuff. And now you pivot back to Connor Riley, who, is an NDSU guy. But Matt Wells is going to have a lot of impact on play calling. And what he's brought to the table are some different philosophies on route trees and, the type of routes, trying to get these athletes to the edge. And also, he's a big believer in misdirection with option. Maybe more zone read, maybe some of that receiver in motion, getting the ball. We've seen that a little bit at K-State, but there's some other elements you can layer in. We don't know what we're going to see, and I'm fired up, and I'm sure a lot of K-State fans are, to see how it manifests itself on game day, because these are a lot of toys now to play with, because we haven't even talked about a receiver room that might be the best in 5 to 10 years for K-State, and a tight end room that is going to miss Ben Sinnott, but they've got some guys that can really play behind him, and I think this is going to be a really fun offense if the offensive line settles in and finds itself.
Speaking of Ben Sinnott, both Sinnott, Cooper Beebe, a couple of other Wildcats, definitely being able to play at the next level. And of course, Sinnott and Beebe drafted last week in the NFL draft. What were your big takeaways from the way that Kansas State showed out in the NFL draft?
Well, I'm really happy for Ben Sinnott. I mean, if you said 2 years ago Ben was going to be drafted at a Cooper Beebe, I think everyone laughed you out. His development has been incredible. He's still got a lot to go too. I think Washington saw that he's got even more upside to him. He's still learning, but he also brings a lot of flexibility to your offense. You don't have to carry a fullback now for short yardage situations if that's what you want to have. You just throw Sinnott back there. So that kind of flexibility is really good for an NFL team with limited roster spots. But boy, Washington fell in love with him. And it only takes one franchise. I say it all the time. It's like dating. You can be ugly, but out of the 32 women in the room, if one thinks you're hot, you're in, man. And that's Washington loved him, and I think a lot of franchises did. I was a little surprised Beebe dropped to the third round. I think it's an absolute steal out of K-State for the second straight year for the Dallas Cowboys. I think they drafted a guy that's going to start a very long time in Dallas, as long as he stays healthy. And of course, KT Levinston got drafted in the 7th round with the Rams, and I think KT has the ability to be in the NFL for a while.
It was about the perfect spot for BB. It just was. Sinnott too, I think, just because the opportunity is going to be there for him. But man, BB with that team and the way they've had Hall of Fame offensive linemen throughout their history, I love that landing spot for him. All right, Fitz, I know you had thoughts on Kaluma. What else do you guys have going for us right now? Go powercat.com.
Well, we snuck our podcast up early yesterday. We usually release it on Thursday mornings this time of year, but you can't wait anymore, guys. I mean,
no,
I was afraid in the 2 hours between starting and posting the podcast, something would happen. It's just crazy right now. So we're monitoring all of that, and we've got some just same old stuff. We're every day we have breaking news. You don't know what is going to come at you, and it's kind of fun. It's really livened up this time of year for both the website producers like our staff and the fans that read them, because there's just stuff flying at you all the time. Big 12 Insiders today, we're gonna go into the courtroom, guys, and examine White versus NCAA and have Curry Sexton on, who of course is a former player, attorney, runs Wildcat NIL. So Brian Hanley and myself on Big 12 Insiders at 1 p.m. will go live and break down that court case, because it looks like it's about to shatter the entire myth of amateurism with college athletics.
Hey, real quick, Fitz, before we let you go, last time we had you on, you were getting ready to make the trek down to Lawrence to talk to Travis Goff. I know you had that that video that you posted that was great, talking about the KU Stadium project. So for folks that haven't watched that or not followed up on that, what were some big takeaways from that interview with Travis?
Oh, first of all, I'd never met Travis. I'd heard about him. Speaking of Curry Sexton, Colin, his brother, is kind of Travis Goff's right-hand man. So it's good to see Colin. Just wonderful people over there. And I have that feeling every time I go to Lawrence and deal with administrators or players. They're good people, and that's fun to cover, and that's fun to have as your rival. I mean, that at the end of the day, it's about sports and not really about anything else. And to reiterate, my hang up has always been in this current environment, spending taxpayer money on college athletics and not college campuses. And he clarified that this grant was for economic development, and it's essentially covering the cost of the conference center they're building right now in phase one. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. He said he couldn't break out the cost. I'm told that's pretty easy to do. But he was very forthcoming for the most part, and I really enjoyed my talk with him. And anyone who thought it was going to be hostile and volatile, that's not really how journalism works. I mean, unless you got really something to pin them down on, your goal is to get them on the record with what they're just saying, and that's what he gladly went on. It was wonderful. It was really enjoyable.
The goal is to have questions everybody has answered. It's not
right.
It doesn't need to be much more complicated than that.
I don't understand why the K-State guy ended up being the one that sits down with him and actually asks the questions instead of going to a Rotary Club meeting and writing down his answers. I just thought that was kind of odd too, because I know KU fans had some questions. Maybe not the same questions I had, but I tried to cover the gamut of the entire situation, not just ask my 2 or 3 questions. I wanted to get some entire background on it, and I drove by the project. Guys, I'll be really impressed if they get this done. And it's down to the ground, and you got some plumbing pipes sticking up right now. They got a lot of work ahead.
They'll get it done. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll get it done. It's kudos for asking the questions about how our taxpayer dollars are used. We do it all the time, just in general senses. We're about to have the same conversations as it potentially becomes to pro stadiums. We just need to know. I mean, you just need to know the way these things are being used when we pay not only $80,000 a year in tuition, but taxes. It's involved. Appreciate you asking those questions, Fitz.
Well, and people are very confused because I'm also supporting the Chiefs' effort to get the Chiefs across the state line, which will be taxpayer money involving star bonds. But I think that's legitimate economic development for Kansas, and also kind of a notoriety that the pro team is in your state, not the other state.
Oh, star bonds are different. KU's not star bonds, is it?
No, I think they have an element in there. It was a different kind of grant. Also, they've got a couple things going on with taxpayer monies, but that's been my issue. I think the economic development and the football stadium are two different things that are mashed in together, which I find confusing. And honestly, I don't know that wasn't the goal, is to kind of just have one big fundraising effort to get it done.
Yeah, we'll see. Time will tell, and there's a lot still to go on that, and we'll keep our ear to the ground on it. Fitz, we're up against it. Always appreciate it. Go powercat.com. Find Tim's reporting on all of these fun and exciting things. Also follow him on social media at Life of Fitz. Let's do it again next week.
Thanks, boys.
There goes Tim Fitzgerald. You can go back and listen to that, by the way, for free on the Odyssey app. And you can listen to it for free in podcast form as well at kfhradio.com. You can go back and watch these video streams. If you miss anything, we make it very easy to go back and find it. All right, we'll come back. We'll continue the conversation. We're up against one. We owe Jad a break. On the way out, Jad, let's give away some HTO, a free iced tea, a free rain coffee, one of each, available at the HTO locations in Wichita, both East and West, and in Derby. Good luck, everybody. First caller to the IHOP hotline gets some free drinks on us here at Sports Daily. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, to Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor joining you here, having some fun. You can go back and listen to our conversation with Tim Fitzgerald. A lot of interesting stuff there happening. It's at kfhradio.com. It's for free on the Odyssey app. You can go back and watch these video streams as well, leaving us your comments, whatever you want to do. You can find those Facebook, YouTube, X. Tommy Fitz brings up the situation with, funding and all of that stuff up in Lawrence for that. So we don't get a vote. You were out yesterday. We don't get a vote on the pro sports stuff, which makes sense, sort of reading the room. They've got a big old tax cut to get hammered out here. Probably needs to take priority at the moment. But we're seeing now the news sort of yesterday after we left the air is it seems like there is some rumblings now in Missouri for Jackson County to separate the Chiefs and Royals and come up with some sort of plan for the Chiefs only. All of this is very predictable, by the way. The second that vote didn't happen, the easiest path on this for the Chiefs, and you can't think of it as the Royals and the Chiefs. The Royals have always faced a more difficult challenge in this of getting their stadium downtown. So the first step is to continue to bundle them together. They clearly were like, all right, let's tether ourselves. Let's get some Chiefs firepower in here. Let's see if we can make that happen. And the voters overwhelmingly said no to that idea. So that's the easiest path for the Chiefs. Always was. Just kind of keep the money coming in the same way it's always come in. That didn't work. So what's the next very obvious answer? For the Chiefs to sort of say, all right, open bidding. Here we go. And now we won our new stadium. We probably always have one at our new stadium, if I had to guess, by the way. I don't know that they ever really wanted to renovate Arrowhead. I think they'd much rather build a new stadium. Maybe not the easiest, but okay. We'll take this through. But we're not tied to the Royals anymore. Royals, good luck. Do your own thing. We're going to go do our thing, and we're going to have lots of bidders for it, and they will get that. So now it'll be just sort of a little bit of a bidding war on who can get the best deal for the Chiefs. And I don't know how it plays out, but I think that's what they're hoping for. I don't know if there's the appetite to get this done in both places. I'm not sure because I was wrong about that Jackson County vote. So maybe there's not the appetite for a star bond to fund basically the entire project. I mean, it would be just an unbelievably large project, right? So now you're going to have Jackson County getting involved. The Chiefs are going to get a great deal here. I don't know the way this goes, Tommy. Kansas, again, still hasn't formally made anything happen. They still have to come back and vote on that later. I saw somewhere in the Jackson County thing that I think it was Sam McDowell. Tweeting yesterday, like it may not be able to come back up on a ballot, though, for another year, like because it got voted down the first time. That sort of buys the state. If that's true, that sort of buys, and if I understand it correctly, maybe is a more important way to put that. That buys Kansas a little time, to get something out there beforehand. I don't think on a star bond it has to be voted on by, the public. I think lawmakers can push that through. We'll see. I do think the chances are real. I mean, I think, what would we put it at? If we had to really evaluate and give it on a scale of whatever, I'd say it's 50-50. I'd say there's a 50-50 chance the Chiefs come over to this Kansas side. I really do.
I'm going to put it more like 70-30 that they stay in Missouri. I think 30% chance they come to Kansas, 70% chance they stay in Missouri. I think when the dust settles, when this is all said and done, however many years down the line, I think we're going to see the Chiefs in Jackson County, and I think we're going to see the Royals across the border in Kansas. That's just kind of the way that I think it's all going to play out. I think that Jackson County, I mean, clearly, now they're at a point where they might be kind of pressing that panic button a little bit. Let's try to figure out a way to, keep the Chiefs in Jackson County, because that's the crown jewel. If you're obviously comparing both franchises, it's the Chiefs. And so this is the oldest strategy in negotiation. You're negotiating, and I'm talking about the Chiefs here for a second, and even the Royals to an extent, but you are these franchises. You're negotiating with the county that you're currently in. It doesn't work initially. The voters vote it down. And then the franchises say, well, you know what? We could probably go get a better offer somewhere else. And then all of a sudden there might be a little bit of interest, and you're leveraging that to get a better deal where you currently are. I mean, it would be the same way like if I was renting a house or renting an apartment, and they want to raise my rent, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go somewhere else, and like somebody else is interested, and I go back and I say, hey, I've got this place, and they, we don't want to lose your money, so we'll keep your rent the same. Like it's kind of similar to that. And I think when it's all said and done, I think Jackson County will find a way, even if it's not, taxpayer voted. I don't exactly know how they do it, but I think Jackson County will probably find a way to make that happen, to keep the Chiefs there, and the Royals will probably cross the border.
Your rent money isn't paid with taxpayer dollars. At least I don't think it is. But I like the comparison because it's true. Of course they are. And, the state of Missouri watched the Rams walk out the door. different situation, but it happened. I don't think the Chiefs won't capitalize on that, by the way. I just don't know, Tommy, if there was that overwhelmingly no vote the last time. Again, I don't think in today's political climate where most people have their minds made up before these things ever even start, that even if you took the Royals out of it, if the voters are going to say yes to that, I don't know that they have enough votes there. I think that's the real challenge. Like, can you ever get, if you're the Chiefs and you just saw that vote go the way it did, are you really confident that you're ever going to get that vote, especially if you've got to wait a year to get it?
That's a long time to wait. A lot can happen in a year.
You know what I mean?
And
And it's not a guarantee either. You could not
Right.
only would you potentially then have to wait that long, you have to do something that convinces that many voters to flip. That just doesn't really happen anymore, especially if you're not going, unless you're asking for like less money. But people, I think the numbers of it, people don't even care about that anymore. They're just like, they're angry and they don't want to do it there. The appetite is gone there. And if I'm a voter there, I mean, it's a sales tax vote, at least the one they took last time. I mean, here's the interesting part for the Chiefs. If I live in Jackson County, and I don't care where the Arrowhead is, if it's within 10 miles, 15 miles, like what difference does it make to me? I'm going to go to the game either way. I'm going to enjoy it either way. So what difference does it make? Like that. So like flipping your vote, it doesn't really matter. Like who cares if they go across the border? If I'm a Missouri resident, do I really care if the Chiefs are playing in Kansas City, Kansas? Do you think there are fewer Sporting KC fans, Tommy, because they're on the Kansas side instead of the Missouri side? Or is that Kansas City's team, the Metro?
It's the Metro's team. It's the
So
Metro's
people
team. And on top of that, it is by and large the team for the state of Kansas and the team for the state of Missouri. Now that the Rams aren't in St. Louis, and I know a little bit of inside baseball here at Odyssey, we're tied in pretty closely with the St. Louis market. And so I know a lot of people in the St. Louis market from the job I do outside of this show. And I point blank asked them, like, what does the fan base in St. Louis look like now? And they're like, oh, it's primarily Chiefs. It's primarily the Chiefs. Like, there are people that are like, I'm not even going to root for anybody now that the Rams are gone and like not interested. But by and large, I mean, like, they carry the Chiefs in St. Louis. It's a big deal, so we're talking like the entire state of Missouri. I've been to Southern Missouri. I've been to the Springfield area. They're Chiefs fans down there. Most of the state of Kansas is the same way. So to pigeonhole them as just a Kansas City, Missouri product is unfair. That's not the case. Now, the difference is on the baseball side, because you've got the Cardinals in St. Louis.
Sure.
So it's different between, the Royals and the Cardinals in baseball. But from a football perspective, by and large, the Kansas City Chiefs, I think, are claimed pretty much by the majority of both states.
Well, look, one thing is the Rams left. The Chiefs aren't leaving the region. It's not going to happen. So now it just is basically the placement of this new stadium. And does that matter if you're in Jackson County? I don't think it does.
I don't think it does.
Does it matter if you're the state of Kansas? I think it probably does. And so that's where I think that's why I put it at 50-50. Because I still think there's a great chance somehow Missouri doesn't let the Chiefs walk out the door. Mike asks on our video stream, I guess I don't know how it affects us down here. It's a great point, Mike. And the question on that is one I don't have the answer to right now. So I wonder the same thing. I will tell you this, though, that as long as a star bond pays for itself, it doesn't really matter because we're not paying for it down here. The people that are using the facility in the area are the people that are paying for it in a star bond because it's tied to a sales tax directly located there. It's like saying, Riverfront Stadium, okay, is on a star bond. Well, how does it affect me if I live in Goddard? Well, it doesn't really affect you if you live in Goddard unless you go use it, or, probably if it doesn't get paid for over time. And so I don't know that it will either. So my biggest question in all of this is, are these things being paid for through the star bonds that they're given? I asked Sean Logging, just kind of chewing the fat at the office yesterday, because I told you guys I would yesterday, ask him if he knows. And, the Kansas Motor Speedway project was much smaller in scale. I think he said it was a $24 million project, right? And I think they're about halfway through that right now. So does that mean it'll pay out when it's supposed to? I'm not 100% sure, but I will say this. The number of people involved in the area and being there on this project would be much higher because of, the amount of people coming in at least 20 or 30 times a year versus, 2 times a year. So, but does that amplify out to $1 billion, which is what they want to spend? I don't know. I need to see the math. That's all I need to see is the math. If this thing if the math in the history of star bonds, because here's what the reality is, and the Chiefs probably won't do this, but the Chiefs very easily could, if they wanted to, project out how much that sales tax is going to generate based on the numbers they have right now. They sell out every game, right? So they could at least provide the state of Kansas that number, right? Just based on concessions, merch, ticket prices of the events we host at Arrowhead. Here is how much a 3/8, whatever the sales tax is, 1%, 2%. Here's how much that would generate based on what we did last year at Arrowhead. Now, that's not totally conclusive, because I'm sure in this proposal you'd have hotels and you'd have restaurants and stuff, something that Arrowhead doesn't have right now. But at the minimum, you could get the info if the Chiefs are willing to give it. And if they're not willing to give it, that should probably be a red flag of what that stadium generated last year. Project that number out, multiply it by the proposed sales tax. Boom. There's how much per year, probably at a minimum, you could suspect would go into this. So if that's the case, then how long does that take to pay off $1 billion? If that math adds up, bring it on. Because it won't, Mike, to answer your question, affect us down here by cost, because it's not paid for that way. That's what a star bond is. So I don't know that math, though.
I also wonder what's more appealing, and there are pros and cons, I'm sure, to both. But what would be more appealing to the Hunt family? Would it be more appealing to cross the border to Kansas and have that stadium built via star bonds? Or would it be more appealing for the Hunt family to move the team across the border to Kansas and get a significant tax break to do so? You're talking about tax subsidies and things like that, because there's precedent for both. That battery plant, is being built, Panasonic up in Northeast Kansas.
That does affect us down here.
Substantial tax breaks, and so I think that there are tax, star bonds are something where, it's not really, it's just basically mortgaging, based on a sales tax, the project to be paid out in the future. The tax breaks right away for the owner of the team. It's something that could be a little bit different. I can see it being appealing either way for the Hunt family. I wonder what that direction is.
I think the easy answer is the most appealing thing for the Hunt family is to not pay a dime for this stadium. Right. Start there and then see how much you're going to have to pony up.
They're worth billions of dollars. It's not like they couldn't just build it themselves, but
they could.
That's not the reality.
Just like the stadium in LA and just like the stadium in Denver, they definitely could just build it themselves. They're not going to, because they're not going to have to, because somebody is going to help them foot that bill. Is it the state of Kansas? Time will tell.
Somebody will pay for it, and
somebody will.
And here's the thing: is that if Jackson County, if Missouri loses them, Kansas will step up and do it. So it's not like it has to go down a list of, all right, they said no, it's gonna stop with Kansas. I think if Missouri loses them,
St. Louis might come in and bid. There you go. There's the ultimate curveball. 869-1240 is the number. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. portion of the program brought to you by Crestview Country Club. We appreciate their support here of us at Sports Daily. Tommy and I both members out there, and Tommy and I will both be utilizing those facilities very soon. Had a big Squishmallow Kids event this weekend in getting ready for swim team out at the big Crestview pool. If you haven't seen it, they get to heat the water, they get to cool the water, they get the big high dive, they have full bar service, restaurant out there. It's what my family uses at Crestview by far the most, is that pool and that area. All right, welcome back into Sports Daily. We are making our way through this day. No Royals tonight. They begin a series after today down at home. Texas will come in. So the Royals are in a pretty interesting spot here because it's a day off, and they just don't get a lot of days off in this stretch. We talked about this stretch of games in it. They are now 2 games above 500, but they come home and they'll play 2 big series. They get Texas, they get Milwaukee, they get them all at home. They get this random day off here, and then they don't get another day off after this one until May 16th. So that's the stretch there. May 8th is sort of what we've highlighted, and that finishes up with this Texas and this Milwaukee home series. So we'll keep our eye on that. We put it at, get through these rough stretch of games at 500. They're currently a little better than that. They're going to get Reagans and Lugo each pitching one more time in that rotation. Brady Singer tries to bounce back against the Rangers. Then they get Waka. It looks like they have Daniel Lynch slotted in for that series finale, which is interesting as they've sort of bounced around as they wait on Alec Marsh, hopefully to get back at some point soon. So they're kind of rotating guys through there. We'll see how that works for them. But 6 games through the rest of that stretch. They get them all at home. They are against 2 good teams, and we'll see how they do. And then things open up a little bit, and then you get, a situation where 7 out of the next 10 are against the Angels in Oakland. That's a good opportunity to win a bunch of games. It's looking pretty good for the Royals and where they may be able to be by June 1st. And I think we can sort of circle that date on the calendar, that June 1st date, as the time when the Royals, if they're looking the same way they're looking now, to go get aggressive and try to add to this roster. I don't know that they're a big splash. I don't know that there's going to ever be a big splash in this. I don't know that there needs to be. I think they would be just fine to get in there and just get some veteran bats to help them, maybe an arm or 2 out of the bullpen. But, we've got a month of baseball to play between now and then. We'll see if they can keep it up. They do not play tonight. We'll tell you what you can find on the network tonight in the wake of them when we finish up Sports Daily right after this.
Swing for the fences at BetMGM by boosting your next same-game parlay. Add an MLB SGP wager to your bet slip and activate your Parlay Boost token. If your bet with the token applied hits, you'll get a bigger payout. It's like driving in multiple runs with one big hit. Now is the perfect time to try a Boost token, even if you're a rookie placing a baseball same-game parlay in the majors for the first time. Your BetMGM parlay can include bets on the money line, run line, total, and much more. Plus, make sure to check out Signature Bets for this baseball season, where you can wager on fun props and scenarios for a game. Go to your BetMGM account today to claim your same-game parlay boost token to get a larger payout from a winning MLB wager. Make all 9 innings even more exciting with BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks and official sports betting partner of MLB. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Kansas only. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
Toppers Plus Truck and RV, your RV headquarters, now offers Rhino Linings Eco Coat, a spray-on roof lining to protect your RV from daily wear. It's 100% seamless, won't crack or peel, UV resistant, lasts 3 times longer than a rubber roof with a Toppers Plus lifetime leak-free guarantee. Shop in-stock accessories including sewer and electrical items, freshwater hoses, stabilizing kits, lock kits, AC filter parts, and RV decor. Get your free RV roof inspection at Toppers Plus Truck and RV, 333 Northwest Street or toppersplusks.com.
Make your truck work for you. Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
I'm attorney Tyler Patterson. Big rig accidents can be devastating, causing big injuries and even death. Special laws apply to these types of accidents. If you've been hurt by a big rig, call Patterson Legal Group today. Our experienced team will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. In a wreck, need a check? Call us today.
Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
Save big money at Menards. Let the fresh air in and keep the bugs out with replacement screen for your doors and windows from AdForce. It's easy to install, durable against the elements, and comes in a variety of types to suit your needs. Repair your screens today with a roll of replacement screen on sale through May 5th. And check out more great deals happening now in our weekly flyer on Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
Cloudy skies this afternoon with the chance of a shower or thunderstorm and a high near 70.
Weather brought to you by Robert Half.
9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring today. Robert Half is here to help. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today.
When it's time for a brake job, go with a solution that delivers one of the smoothest and most quiet rides on the road. Napa Silent Guard brakes. Made with fiber-reinforced shims that eliminate noise for the life of the pad. Rubber-coated hardware for a better fit on 99.5% of vehicles. And quality design that meets and exceeds OE performance. Napa Silent Guard brakes deliver the stopping power and performance drivers demand in their vehicles. Available now at Napa locations nationwide.
Looking to step up your Mother's Day flowers? The Home Depot has an idea. Let Mom's Green Thumb do some digging with colorful flowers, pots, and premium soils to bring out the most in her patios, walkways, and gardens. Right now, get Vigoro potting soil just $8.97 for strong, healthy, vibrant plants, indoors and outside. Shop our wide selection online and pick up your order in-store and give Mom the gift of a beautiful garden. Get Vigoro potting soil just $8.97 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. See homedepot.com/delivery for details.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
Minor League Baseball last night. The Wichita Wind Surge on the road, visiting the Northwest Arkansas Naturals. 2,400 fans at the game in Springdale. Wichita down 5-0 in the fifth inning, but then outscored Northwest Arkansas 6-0 in the final 5 innings. Came back and won that game 6-5. The number 9 hitter in the lineup, second baseman Jake Rucker, was on base 3 times, drove in 3 of the 6 runs, got his first triple of the season. And the Wind Surge bullpen, 2 pitchers combined for 3 scoreless innings of work. Wichita at Northwest Arkansas again tonight as the road week continues. College baseball last night, Wichita State losing 8-1 at Kansas. The Jayhawks win their 7th game in a row. Shockers only got 3 hits, losing their 10th straight road game as the Shocks continue to struggle on the road. College softball yesterday. Friends University winning 2 games at the KCAC tournament in Great Bend. 13-game winning streak now for Friends softball into the winners bracket finals today. I'm Ted the Sports Head.
The most listened to sports radio in Wichita is 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio. 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, everybody, that is it for us today. Coming up on the Infinity Sports Network today, you got Jim Rome at 11, Zach Gelb at 4, JR Sport Brief at 6, Bob and Jeff here locally from 2 to 4. In the meantime, we'll get back to Royal Baseball tomorrow. Shocker Baseball broadcast available for free on the Odyssey app when they happen. Download the Odyssey app and search for it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, however it is that you tune in. We'll do this again tomorrow. For Tommy Castor, Jad Chambers, congratulations to Herb for winning our HDO. We'll be back tomorrow. All right, let's go in